In every ancient civilization, legends whispered of warriors so powerful they were believed to carry the blood of the gods. But among all those myths, one story stands above the rest, the tale of a royal bloodline born from the god of war himself, a dynasty that shaped kingdoms, destroyed empires, and changed the fate of the ancient world. Thousands of years ago, during an age when gods still walked the earth, the war god visited the mortal world. He was known by many names across many cultures: Artis, Tiar, Kartikeya, Huitzilopochtli. He saw humanity struggling, fighting endless, pointless wars. But in one kingdom, he saw a queen named Seraphina, a leader admired not for her beauty, but for her unshakable courage on the battlefield. The war god, impressed by her spirit, chose her to bear his child. From their union was born the first of this legendary bloodline prince, Arcanus, who would later be called the child born in fire. The moment he took his first breath, the sky itself roared with thunder, and every warrior in the kingdom felt a strange, new power awaken deep within them. It was as if their own blood had been set alight. The birth of Arcanos was a sinna, promise of a new era. The kingdom's high priests, who could read the threads of fate, delivered the first prophecy about the child. They foretold when the world trembles under the weight of darkness, a child of the war god will rise. He will lead armies stronger than tempered steel and fiercer than a dragon's flame. And as Arcanos grew, the prophecy began to prove true. His childhood was filled with impossible feats of strength that left everyone in awe. At just 5 years old, he effortlessly lifted a full-size soldier's shield, a feat that grown men struggled with. By age 10, he was already training with the royal guard, and he defeated his first seasoned warrior in a sparring match. Not with brute force, but with an instinct for combat that was simply unnatural. By the time he was 15, his strength was so immense that he shattered a steel sword with his bare hands during a training exercise, a display that sent shockwaves through the entire kingdom. But with such great power came an equally great danger. Whispers of this god-blooded child spread far beyond the kingdom's borders, reaching the ears of dark forces that had long thrived in the shadows. They feared this new bloodline, for it signaled an end to their reign of chaos and despair. Deep within the jagged peaks of the Shadowfang Mountains lived the Shadow Priests, guardians of ancient forbidden magic drawn from the void itself. Their own prophecies had long warned them of a coming threat. One passage read, "If the bloodline of the war gods rises to power, the age of shadows will end, and the world will be blinded by a new dawn." For them, this was not a promise of hope, but a sentence of extinction. Driven by fear and a thirst for eternal darkness, they decided to act. The Shadow Priests forged a secret army, a force unlike any the world had ever seen. They called them the Shadow Legion, warriors who fought not with honor, but with cursed weapons that drained the life from their victims and souls, bound by dark rituals. Their one and only mission was terrifyingly simple: find and erase every last trace of the war god's bloodline before it could become an unstoppable force for the light. Years passed, and the kingdom Arcanos was born to inherit began to crumble. Rebellions sparked in the outer provinces. Monstrous beasts emerged from forgotten corners of the land, and a great famine swept across the fields, leaving the people starving and desperate. In the midst of this chaos, the old king Arcanos' mortal father passed away, leaving the throne empty and the kingdom leaderless. Arcanos, now a powerful young warrior known for his fiery spirit and unmatched skill, had no choice but to take the crown. He ascended the throne and became King Arcanos, the Red Lion, a name given to him for the roar of his voice on the battlefield and the ferocious way he fought. Under his command, the kingdom was reborn. Armies that were once fractured and demoralized tripled in strength, their morale ignited by their god-touched king. The kingdom's borders, once shrinking, now expanded as he pushed back the encroaching darkness. Enemies who had once scoffed at the kingdom's weakness now knelt in surrender. Trade routes reopened, and prosperity began to flourish once more. But as the light grew brighter, the shadows grew longer. The Shadow Legion, seeing their prophecy of doom unfolding, struck with renewed viciousness. They descended from the mountains like a plague, burning villages to the ground, kidnapping innocent children to fuel their dark rituals. and spreading a wave of terror designed to break the people's spirit. But they underestimated the resolve of the Red Lion. Standing before his grieving people, Arcanos made a solemn vow, his voice echoing with divine power. "For every tear my people shed, I will return 1,000 screams of war." The final confrontation was inevitable. The Shadow Legion launched their greatest attack, a massive invasion aimed at the heart of the kingdom. But Arcanos was ready. He led his personal army, the Bloodborne Guard, elite soldiers whose loyalty was absolute into a war that would shake the very foundations of the earth. What followed was a battle of mythic proportions. The sky turned black as thousands of cursed arrows flew, only to be met by a volley of shining steel. The deep, guttural echo of war drums sounded like the world's dying heartbeat. Giant, shadowy war beasts, summoned by forbidden magic, charged across the field, but the Bloodborne Guard held the line, inspired by their king. Arcanos himself was a whirlwind of destruction. He moved through the enemy ranks with inhuman strength and speed, his blade a blur of silver light. He was more than a king. He was a demigod of war. As his soldiers fought with the strength of 10 men, the shadow priests countered by summoning pillars of black flame from the ground. The world bore witness to a cataclysmic war between divine blood and forbidden magic. At the height of the chaotic battle, Arcanos finally came face to face with the leader of his enemies, the Shadow High Priest, a figure cloaked in darkness and radiating pure malice. The High Priest sneered, his voice a chilling whisper. "Your blood is a curse. You're an anomaly destined to fall." Arcanos raised his sword, its blade now glowing with a faint, red light. He responded, his voice calm yet filled with absolute certainty. "My blood is not a curse. It is destiny." With a final, deafening war cry, he unleashed the full extent of his power, a concussive blast of pure, godlike energy, the sacred fire of the war god himself. The divine light vaporized the High Priest and his entire Shadow Legion, cleansing the land of their corruption in a single, brilliant flash. Victory was his, but as Arcanos stood over the dying embers of the High Priest, the shadowy figure used his last breath to reveal a shocking truth. "You have won nothing," he rasped. "You are not the last. Another child of the war god walks this earth. A hidden sibling, unknown, untrained, and potentially incredibly dangerous." Arcanos was stunned. His entire life, he believed he was unique, the sole heir to this divine power. Now, he learned his bloodline was bigger and far more powerful than he had ever imagined. The prophecy was not just about him. With his kingdom finally safe, Arcanos embarked on a new quest, a personal journey to find this lost heir. He traveled across scorching deserts, scaled impassable mountains, and delved into ancient, forgotten ruins, following whispers and rumors. The stories he heard were fragmented but intriguing. They spoke of a warrior in the south who fought like a raging storm, a child in the frozen north who could summon fire with a thought, a mysterious woman in the east who could hear the cries of battle from miles away. He didn't know who or where they were, but he knew he had to find them. This other heir could be the key to securing a lasting peace for the world. Or, in the wrong hands, they could be the one to finally destroy it. And so begins the true story. Not of one warrior, but of an entire dynasty forged from the blood of the war gods. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more epic tales. See you next time.